Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm Jennifer Tran, and I'm the co-founder of Midgate, which is a platform that allows anyone to gate content using NFTs or social tokens minted anywhere, anytime. Also, we'll be launching our NFT marketplace pretty soon. And I'll be talking to you about green NFTs, what they are, and how the Arab world can push for greater blockchain sustainability. So a couple of weeks ago, this happened. There was a lot of controversy surrounding the energy use of blockchain and the negative environmental effects of minting NFTs. A whole bunch of creators talked about how they wouldn't be minting NFTs or interacting with the blockchain anymore. And Elon Musk said that he would stop accepting Bitcoin as a means of payment for Tesla cars because he found out that the Bitcoin blockchain consumed a lot of energy. So how much truth is there to this? What's so terrible about the blockchain? Maintaining and running the blockchain does consume a lot of energy. First, for proof of work blockchains, which Bitcoin and Ethereum are on, all miners must compete with each other to verify the data. However, only one miner wins, and all the other energy from other miners that were used to compute and verify the data is completely wasted. Another alternative is proof of stake, which I'll be talking about later in the presentation. For example, Bitcoin mining consumes 100 terawatts per year, which is 0.55% of the world's energy consumption, and is slightly less than the electricity consumption of the UAE, which is 118 terawatts. The Arab world does contribute to mining, specifically with Iran, as Iranian miners collectively as a whole ranks as a sixth top ranked mining nation, as well as other nations competing. Other nations really having take part, as you see here, with the yellow and oranges. This data is collected through the University of Cambridge, so you can see the data there. Even though Ethereum does not publish, or there isn't as much data around like the individual miners of Ethereum mining consumes 48 terawatts per year, which is 0.25% of the world's consumption, which falls between Iraq's the country's entire electricity consumption, between Iraq, which is 38 terawatts, and Algeria, 55 terawatts. Even though it's hard to find information about Ethereum validators, we do know that there are nodes in Oman, the UAE, Lebanon, and Bahrain. And Ethereum and Bitcoin are consuming this much energy before there's mass adoption. So just imagine how much energy they'll be using when there is mass adoption, and there'll be more more enterprises and individuals that want to contribute as miners on their networks. So how do we solve this? What's the premise? So the Green NFT and Clean NFT movement is a research and education initiative that aims to discover sustainable blockchain solutions, specifically for non-fungible tokens. It's not a specific organization or blockchain or group, but more just a concept or desire to make the blockchain just more sustainable. Though there have been some groups that have been formed through this idea and this movement. For example, the Green NFT themselves, and also other blockchains are really just trying to find ways to be more sustainable and actually have groups within their foundations to find better alternatives. But overall, it's the Green NFT and Clean NFT movement. It's not a specific organization or blockchain or group. It is more a desire initiative between the whole entire blockchain community to make sure that there are sustainable initiatives and ways to mint tokens and be connected to the blockchain. So what are alternatives for a more sustainable blockchain? The proof of stake mechanism is one of the ways that a lot of blockchain, like is one of the mechanisms that a lot of blockchains are adapting in order to be more sustainable. Unlike the proof of work blockchain, where all of the miners are competing and they're trying to verify the transaction data, like proof of stake, like transaction power is like more selective. It's given to only a select amount of validators, and it's usually given to those who have been kind of contribute the most. Ethereum, which is currently now on proof of stake, plans to transition to, Ethereum, which is now on proof of work, plans to transition to proof of stake. And what validators on Ethereum will do in spring of 2022 when this happens is they'll stake or deposit Ether instead of running a node. And according to the Ethereum Foundation, early estimates show that this new mechanism of validating data is going to consume 2,000% less energy. So as you see here on this graph, the orange is the current energy consumption of Bitcoin, and then the black is the current energy consumption of Ethereum proof of work, and the purple is going to be the energy consumption of Ethereum proof of stake. Even though like the proof of stake is kind of like how it works is kind of out of scope of this project or of this presentation, I think it still really has a lot of potential to really reduce that energy consumption. But there are proof of stake blockchains already here. Some of these include Matic and XDAI, which are layer 2 blockchains. And what layer 2 blockchains are they are compatible with Ethereum. So the premise is that someone can mint on Matic or XDAI, and when Ethereum is on proof of stake, they can port over their tokens onto Ethereum. And this is actually a use case that I've seen with creators who I work with. They're minting their NFTs or social tokens on Matic and XDAI with the hope that when Ethereum is on proof of stake, they will port these tokens over. Other proof of stake blockchains include Algorand, Near, Polkadot, and they're just a myriad of others. If you just Google search proof of stake blockchains, you'll see like dozens of blockchains that are on proof of stake right now. And creators themselves can mint NFTs on proof of stake blockchains. There are already mainstream marketplaces that support proof of stake blockchains. For example, Mintbase marketplace is on Near. OpenSea has a collaboration with Tezos, and they should be live, I think, in the next couple of weeks, if they are not already. And Polkadot is actually on Polkadot. And they are really striving to also provide creators with the data on their the energy consumption of the NFTs that they mint. Creators can also engage in this concept of lazy minting NFTs. So lazy minting NFTs is when the NFT is not minted until a collector actually purchases the NFT. So a creator would go on these marketplaces, upload their image or any asset that they want to tie to an NFT that they want to tokenize, and that image or that digital piece would just be stored in just a regular database, not on the blockchain. And when someone actually purchases it, then it will be minted on the blockchain. This actually helps prevent minting premature or unnecessary minting, because actually 90% of NFTs are never sold. So the idea is if 90% of NFTs are never sold, there really isn't no use for actually putting it on the blockchain. So that really prevents 90% of NFTs ever being minted. And some of the marketplaces that already support lazy minting include OpenSea and Rarible. The value for lazy minting NFTs, for creators outside of just the sustainability aspect is that creators don't have to pay for the gas fees until gas fees or transaction fees to mint NFTs until the collector purchases it. Or sometimes even the way that lazy minting is set up, the collector actually pays for the gas fees to mint on the blockchain themselves. Now that Ethereum will not be on like a proof of work system, we have to really find ways to still participate in the Ethereum proof of stake version. So right now, in order to be a validator for the proof of stake blockchain, you need to contribute 32 ETH, which is about roughly 80,000 USD to be like a full validator as of last week. And I think that the scale really gives an opportunity for the Arab world to really fundraise and collaborate so they can have a stake. I think that that'd be really interesting to have enterprises, individual companies come together and make sure that you're still participating in the proof of stake, blockchain. Also, as I mentioned, because Ethereum will no longer be using like those nodes and like previous nodes and infrastructure in order to verify data, we had to think about how we're going to recycle the equipment. So Ethereum nodes were like the old Ethereum nodes were made up of GPUs, which are like pretty much computer infrastructure that is a computing power. And a lot of times, like you can use these same GPUs, accelerate videos. You can use them to like power machine learning. And so I think really the next step is to really think about, how can we use this computing power for social good? What can the governments in the Arab world really think it can really incentivize or really discover these GPUs, and how can they reuse them for better? I also think that once these GPUs are repurposed, we really need to think about, how can like these GPUs be powered by clean energy themselves? Because we don't want these GPUs to be reused on the old electrical grid. But this really doesn't end with just proof of stake. So clean energy proof. So I like to think that clean energy proof of work like powered completely by clean energy is still better than proof of stake powered by traditional energy like the electrical grid, which does require some electricity. So I think that there needs to be a way to incentivize validators to use clean energy. The Arab world should really be thinking about where looking at their clean energy infrastructure and seeing where they can plug in like validators and also incentivize validators to make sure that they're using clean energy. Let's do grants, rewards, even like these blockchains themselves, really thinking about, how can they better incentivize validators that are using clean energy versus ones that don't. Also, there needs to be greater data transparency. I mentioned earlier in the presentation that we found that Iran is a sixth nation with the most mining power on Bitcoin, as well that there are nodes in some Arab countries such as UAE and Bahrain. But a lot of this data is actually really incomplete. It's usually not coming from the foundations themselves. A lot of them are estimates. For example, the data about Iran having the sixth most mining power in Bitcoin is actually an estimate from a really well research estimate from the University of Cambridge, but it's not coming from the Bitcoin Foundation. And yeah, there's just overall general, and even when they can estimate, they don't really know who's the validator, who actually is running a lot of these equipment, unless they're a big enterprise company that's really trying open about it. Even those the enterprise companies, they don't even tell you where where these infrastructure is, like what energy use they're using. So there's really a greater need for data transparency on validators, on miners themselves, and like how they use their energy, who they are, etc. So I think a push for greater transparency would be really helpful in in order to really know how much energy is being used on the blockchain. Without that, we're just estimating, and a lot of the data is just really incomplete. And I think overall, there also needs to be a lot more standards on like what these terms really are. So for example, when I'm talking about carbon-free blockchains or green NFTs, clean NFTs, there really isn't a standard definition that I have to utilize. A lot of times it's like what a lot of the community interprets, but also it's like sometimes it's personal, as well. For example, someone who's part of the Green NFT initiative might describe green NFTs a lot different than what I'm describing it. And also, I've also seen other blockchains use the term green NFTs, clean NFTs, as well as their carbon-free blockchain, but there really isn't any definition behind it. So there isn't really anyone really verifying if they actually are a carbon-free blockchain, or if minting an NFT on their platform is actually green. Even though they might be on proof of stake, what does that actually mean? Hasn't been defined yet. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for the industry to develop these standards, whether it's due to decentralized autonomous organization, people and individual enterprises all around the world, and being able to have a stake and set these industry standards, or it's the blockchains themselves being able to be transparent in how they defined some of these terms, not just being a publicity stunt. Another like potential way to really solve like sustainability on blockchains, maybe there's just another like mechanism out there that is not proof of stake. Is there truly another carbon-free like validation mechanism that be utilizing outside of proof of work, obviously, but outside of proof of stake? I think there's a lot of research that can be done from really talented engineers to really think if proof of stake is really the end of like blockchain sustainability, or there's just like another mechanism out there. So in conclusion, overall, like the Arab world is obviously very active in mining on the blockchain. So Iran is ranked 6th in all like mining power amongst nations, as well as many Arab world nations are participating in Bitcoin mining, competing with the likes of many countries in Europe, Asia, and North America, as well as they also have a presence on the Ethereum mining as well on proof of work, potentially having a participation in Ethereum proof of stake, as well as probably participating in other blockchains that don't really disclose their mining data. But there are definitely ways right now that can really help with greater blockchain sustainability. Creators, blockchain enthusiasts themselves right now have like multiple sustainable minting options, including using marketplaces that use proof of stake, as well as using lazy minting. I really think that it's critical for the Arab world to participate in proof of stake on Ethereum, and also just find ways to reuse that proof of work infrastructure for social good, while also adapting clean energy. I think that there's more work that needs to be done outside of proof of stake, including greater data transparency and industry standards. Awesome, everyone. Yeah, so thank you for me presenting about green NFTs. But yeah, I would like to open it to questions, and I like to open it to questions as well as any discussion points that anyone wants to talk about.
So if anyone has questions, just write them in the chat or open your mic and just ask.
If you may me, I have a question.
Yep. Yeah. It's Omar. Go ahead.
Yeah, regarding NFTs copyright, in the like in the couple month ago, I was seeing a lot of fake NFTs that one it's minted and wearable, and the second one can be in OpenSea or Wax, and how we can if I want to be an NFT creator, how can I more secure my NFT and copyright for the what I'm drawing and what I'm making for. As for example, I'm always using Wax blockchain for NFTs for cheap fees, but like in the I can see a lot of very good NFTs, very rare one. It's just been printed by scammers who sold it for 100,000, and at the end they found out it's not the real one. So I know the blockchain can protect the copyright, but different blockchains using NFTs are there any bridge connections between all these blockchains that build on NFTs to protect my copyright?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's a really good, like that's a challenge that the NFT space does have, is like how do you prevent someone from just taking a screenshot of a digital piece and just re-uploading it and then selling it, right, like under under just like another like contract address, token ID, and this can happen across like in the same blockchain too, just not only cross blockchain. So there's one way that I know that the industry has tried to tackle this, and that is to upload all digital pieces onto IPFS. And like with IPFS is that when you upload a piece, it will like have a hash connected to it. If someone else uploads that same piece, it will be that same hash. So technically, the idea is, if you are the first person that uploads that digital piece, then that hash, then like you like can that hash can be related back to you. And there's already like marketplaces that do that, which is I think Rarible. I think OpenSea might also support that as well. Like most marketplaces will upload their digital piece to IPFS. But the challenge of IPFS is if the digital art piece is just slightly different, like for example, like it's like maybe like the color is slightly off, or there's like something like a little bit like different, then it would be a different hash. So like that's the challenge of IPFS right now. Yeah, so like right now, like the industry knows having a really hard time, like it has like a really hard time really like solving this issue. But I think like one other way to just really combat this issue is just make sure that you have a really good relationship with the fans and your community, because if your community knows like the contract address and the token ID that you minted the NFT on, right? Like they'll know that like another NFT that is the same digital art piece but has a different contract address and different token ID is not the same NFT. So I think that yeah, just like having like a really good like relationship with your community can also really help. But unfortunately, like from a technical standpoint, there really isn't a solution right now to that, to really protecting like someone else from minting the same NFT. Yeah, I think like the industry is still figuring that out.
So thank you, Ms. Tran. It has been a pleasure having you. So you have a follow-up, Omar?
No, it's okay. I can ask later, and maybe in.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll like
Okay,
yeah, so in the chat, I'll just like drop my Twitter handle as well as my email, so that anyone that has any follow-up questions on NFTs, whether it's sustainability of NFTs or just NFTs in general, you can send me an email or DM on Twitter. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.